Bem-vindos a mais um Assistindo Porcaria, mas posicionamento de hoje. Ridiculamente questionável da câmera da webcam 3. Dia 28 de 2 de 2025. Percebe que esqueci alguma coisa para trás. Mas beleza, primeiramente vamos falar do que eu vou costurar na live. Vai ser uma bermuda zoada. Bermuda zoada. Aqui, né? Aqui, bermuda. Só tá com um pet por enquanto. Mas vamos também mostrar os outros pets que eles estão aí. Então deixa eu pegar e virar eles pro lado correto. Vamos começar com os que vão na parte da frente. Aqui são os que vão na parte da frente, ó. Battle Helm. É o Battle Helm, né? Bikini Kill. Fuck Cars. Cress. Mangar Kadrave. Axel. Peace Christ. E DFC. E daí na parte de trás. Gloom. E, eu subi um, se vai ali na perna, como já deu pra ver. Eu não vou mostrar a foto que eu tenho salva no celular, que tá como onde encaixar. Eu faço isso, eu tiro foto pra ter em mente onde encaixar cada pet, onde eu quero colocá-los. E agora, se eu abrir aqui o Google, onde de porcaria a gente vai ouvir a música nova lançada do que eu não sei por Cam Chalice, em parceria com o MC Androidão. Só esperar e abrir. Tá, cadê a linha branca? Aqui. Tá em cima da prateleira hoje a câmera. Não da mais alta, mas quem sabe um dia por uma das mais altas, né? A linha mais grossa já acabou, eu tô usando uma mais fininha agora. Tá quase. Aí. Aqui. Talvez eu já tô porcaria meio que separada pra assistir, só pra avisar. Tá abrindo o Google. O Gugu! Tá, eu não. Pera aí. É uma piada meio de tiozão aí pra vocês. Vocês. Vocês sabem por que eu. Vocês sabem o que o Carbono disse quando foi preso? Eu tenho direito a 4 ligações, eu rompo essa cadeia. Aqui. Fone. YouTube. Bandcamp aqui. Já tá indo. Ótimo.
fora e começa metendo a bundinha dos aliens. Eles vazam verde, a gente sai vomitando, a gente sai vomitando, a gente sai. Quem gostou, pega no meu pau. dando sopa, a gente chega lá e tira a rola pra fora e começa a meter a bundinha dos aliens. Eles goza verde, a gente sai vomitando, a gente sai vomitando, a gente sai esgurmando. Os aliens não se cansa. Um cante, Alice bebe um copo inteiro e eu fico só na vontade. Encosta e dá o cara nos aliens. Nossa porra já tá vermelha de tanto sangrar. A gente não aguenta mais gozar. A nossa porra tá vermelha de tanto gozar. A gente não aguenta mais gozar. Muita diversão na suruba alienígena. Muita diversão na suruba alienígena. Muita diversão na suruba alienígena. Puto jogo da suruba alienígena. Quem gostou, pega no meu pau.
Essa foi a música. Pô. Ah, tá. Só pra me certificar aí. Então aí, o que acharam? Se divertiram? Muito pica? Foda-se. Não, obrigado. Bom. Paga essas porra, caralho. Que a gente paga pra não funcionar? Porra nenhuma.
It's a meme from a 2021 adult animation of the villager from Animal Crossing getting it on with Anka, the humanoid cat girl. So far, so internet. But on September 3rd, 2021, for reasons no one understands, a twisted genius randomly remembered the song from the Animal Crossing porno and uploaded it to TikTok, where it blew up. And that was the beginning of the end. Because as this song racked up millions of views on YouTube, for several tragic weeks, oblivious TikTok users and Facebook aunties alike were sending everyone they knew a deceptively cute video of a dancing cat. So what was actually going on here? There have been Newgrounds. And in case you don't see where this is going, the Teen Titans parody, the Jenny the Teenage Robot video that royally pissed off Viacom, and Anka Zone were all made by one person and all came from this website. But how did we get here? Unceremoniously pooped out onto the World Wide Web on July 6, 1995 by a teenage Tom Fulp. What began as a love letter to the Neo Geo console series quickly turned into two controversial flash games, Assassin and Club a Seal. You can imagine what the gameplay looked like. Foreshadowing the iconic screw you attitude that would define a generation, Fulp thoughtfully considered the hate mail being sent to him by those who felt that his games were mean-spirited, and then displayed it on his site for laughs. From here, to paraphrase his own words, Newground had taken on a solid form, kinda like how digested food becomes a turd. And this turd proved very appetizing, as through the late 90s, Newgrounds rapidly cultivated an edgy user base while trying, in vain, not to lose advertisers. Why a brand wouldn't want to appear on the website where you can play man wearing exploding vest walking into a store simulator is anyone's guess. But then 1998 rolls around and uh-oh, lawsuit. After Fulp uploaded uploaded an animation depicting the Teletubbies coping with crippling drug addiction and alcoholism. The British public was so offended by this portrayal of their greatest cultural export that the BBC sued on copyright grounds and lost. That is American free use law. Over the next decade, Fulp and his close-knit team worked tirelessly to keep the website afloat through ballooning server costs caused by thousands of game, music, and video submissions, dictating a large share of edgy internet humor along the way, and in so doing, setting themselves up for potential disaster. And speaking of potential disaster, it's a big internet out there, and honestly, have you ever tried Googling yourself? You'd be shocked at how much of your personal information is freely available online. But I know I have nothing to worry about thanks to today's sponsor, Aura. Aura is a VPN that keeps you safe online while protecting your most sensitive info from hackers and data brokers. Unlike other VPNs, Aura offers antivirus protection, a data broker opt-out that removes your. But we're not at the bad times just yet, because out there on the internet was a slowly multiplying species of human being who stood to benefit like no one ever had from one of Newgrounds' most basic features: shockwave support. Why does that matter? Because what Fire did for the human race, Flash Player did for Coomers. Coomers and Gooners. Two pejorative internet terms that largely describe the same thing. A person, usually male, who is dangerously addicted to adult content. And with Newgrounds' robust support of the SWIF, aka shockwave file format, and the SWIF's popularity in adult animations and games, it's no surprise that hundreds of adult artists found their audience on this website. Now, I obviously can't show you why this format worked so well, so think of it like this. A SWIF is a container file that uses vectors, kind of like a set of instructions that tell an object where to move, where to rotate, or where to bounce up and down crazy style for 4.5 minutes. What animators may lose in terms of visual detail with this method, they often make up for with ease of animation. Combine that with motion tweens, a bouncy, elastic animation style infamous for its use in adult material, and you get the picture. And if you don't, I can only direct you with extreme caution to the Incredible Gassy or the Spider-Man backshots gif. The shockwave format's small file size and widespread compatibility at the time made it easy to upload adult content in that format anywhere it was permitted, especially on a website that gave as few fucks as Newgrounds. And this is where the rubber meets the road. In late 2006, a user going by Zone Sama would make a Newgrounds account, blowing up almost immediately because of her uncanny ability to imitate the art style of existing shows. In 2007, Zone was already blazing new ground and providing Raven and Starfire fans with the highest quality goon material they had ever seen in their lives. Her Jenny the Teenage Robot video so closely resembled the actual show that Viacom forced her to take it down under threat of legal action. And fun fact, this thing is still haunting Nickelodeon because as recently as 2022, the developers of fighting game Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl were forced to remove one of Jenny's voice lines because of its inescapable association with the porn video.
You didn't like my brain. It's all circuity and metallic.
If that's not a sign you made it, I don't know what is. Between her mascot, Zonton,
It's pronounced Zone-Ton.
and the wildly popular ZTV animated series, Zone had quickly carved out a niche as one of the most prolific adult artists online.
I am now a fan of ZTV. Here is the reason. It's because of this hot, sexy character.
But you may have noticed that we completely glossed over the fact that eons ago, a list of rules of the internet were carved into stone on a website that can't go 2 seconds without talking about fluids, religious minorities, and autism. And no, it's not 4chan. See, as Rule 37 clearly states, there are no women on the internet. Or are there? Rule 34, and also 1 through 33 and 35 through whatever. If I can be honest, the reason I've name-dropped Rule 34 without offering a definition is because, frankly, everyone and their mother knows what it means. If it exists, there's part of it. Skibbity Toilet, the John Goodman dinosaur in 1993 smash hit, We're Back, the Microsoft paperclip. Without much exaggeration, if you can imagine it, It's out there. And when it comes to popular franchises, there's a whole cottage industry of source filmmaker animators who pay their bills using freely available software to animate every character from every game doing everything. Major game studios are now so aware of this phenomenon that some play into it in their own marketing. Some, allegedly, have even been accused of making overly anatomically detailed character models knowing what people do with them. All this to say, from the sanctioned Rule 34 sites to the rise of animated clips being hosted on traditional platforms, it was merely a matter of time before Anka, the Egyptian cat girl with the resting bitch face, would get the same treatment. And you must be thinking, yeah, this is very obvious. Why would anyone even need to spell out the concept of Rule 34? People have been making smut since cave times. But that's the thing. Grug didn't have access to the internet, which means someone in your lifetime had to be the first guy online to make this observation and name it. On August 13th, 2003, in yet another demonic act committed by a British person, the author of the webcomic Zoom Out made this panel. Depicting his devastation at finding erotic art of Calvin and Hobbes, he dubbed this phenomenon Rule 34 of the internet. And this was so self-evident, it blew people's minds. It fundamentally changed the way we talk about this stuff online. By 2006, contributors to the aforementioned satire site Encyclopedia Dramatica sourced all sorts of internet truisms from 4chan threads, anonymous IRC chats, and even 4chan daddy, Chris Poole himself.
The rules were created by the man to keep you down. They don't actually exist.
The resulting list became the rules of the internet. And its staying power lies in the fact that not only does it explain every single thing uploaded to DeviantArt, it's actually a very insightful commentary on human behavior. Don't believe me? Okay. Rule 43. The more beautiful and pure a thing is, the more satisfying it is to corrupt. Consider the cult fandom around fluffy pony abuse, a collection of illustrations and fanfics loosely based on My Little Pony, wherein these cloyingly cute pony homunculus creatures, which only want love and cannot possibly defend themselves, are subjected to extreme torture. Or maybe Rule 42. Nothing is sacred. Religion, tragedy, the miracle of life, none of it is too untouchable to avoid becoming gay 9/11 Shrek pregnancy fan art. You know, the amount of times that I invoke 9/11 in these videos is getting like disrespectful. And we can't forget Rule 35. In the extremely rare case that no explicit content exists about something, it will. And to speedrun the rest of this list, 41, everything is somebody's fetish. 47, you're probably never getting laid. And this brings us back to Rule 37. There are no girls on the internet. I'm gonna be so real for a second. Women have been on the internet forever. Though, women probably found themselves in the minority for most of the internet's lifetime. And the women behind anonymous accounts were likely assumed male unless stated otherwise. But the female share of the internet is growing. And if you think that the majority of people flooding the web with yaoi, dress-up games, and slash fics since the 90s were men, you're crazy. Now, when it comes to the more hardcore visual stuff, especially when it comes to content demonstrating extreme views about women's bodies, it's safe to assume most of it is by men for men. Also, real quick on the topic of real-life harm. I wasn't sure where in the video to mention this, but you should be aware that -8, the artist responsible for the 2017 Anka Ride animation, torpedoed his career due to openly being kind of a torpedo himself. Obviously, separating art from artist is an individual choice. But when a person who makes explicit content expresses opinions about little kids, it's almost always a very, very, very bad sign. Anyway, let's return to Anka and Newgrounds. What exactly was that impending disaster about to hit Newgrounds? By the mid-2010s, the commitment to free speech and shock humor that once set Newgrounds apart was going out of style. And it was also around this time that Tumblr, with its reputation for a large female user base, social activism, and complete inability to stop engaging the trolls, saw its peak usership. And one of Tumblr's biggest draws, ironically, was that it permitted all sorts of not safe for work material. So in 2018, when Tumblr abruptly banned such content, it experienced an apocalyptic exodus of users from which it would never recover. And sensing this huge opportunity to revive its declining cultural relevance, Newgrounds casually let Twitter know that they would never, ever implement such a ban, and it had never been less over. The pieces were all lining up. And in 2020, when billions found themselves locked inside with only the internet, TikTok, and their right hand to entertain themselves, the release of Animal Crossing New Horizons was an unbelievable success. I can't stress enough, in early 2020, hundreds of millions of people became very online for the first time. And in a once-in-a-lifetime planetary alignment of a bored, lonely, horny, captive audience, an explosively popular game, and an app known for churning out viral sensations, Onkazone was in the right place at the right time. In the space of days, the backing track to the Onkazone video went mega viral, and how people found their way to Newgrounds, to Zone, to the Animal Crossing wouldn't object. But at the end of the day, the rules of the internet, thorough as they are in making this entire thing make sense, actually have one major flaw when it comes to explaining online goonery. So I propose a Rule 48. When looking up your favorite character, curiosity really does kill the cat. This has been Bad Art History. Thank you, as always, to the Lashana Ball Nation for making this possible. If you want blooper reels, uncensored videos, and extended cuts, please consider joining the Patreon.
Eu achei que isso aqui seria mais traumatizante. Depois que eu vou abrir esse vídeo.
Pregnant Bart Simpson, gay Shrek, and Sandy Kvor. If it exists, someone is into it. The fact is, many memes contain fetish art, but rarely are the artists who bring us these masterpieces ever credited. So today, we're gonna go over 8 fetish images that you guys submitted that were either too obscure, too shocking, or too gross for their own video. And where better to begin than 9/11 Bart Simpson pregnancy fan art. This is the first ever lightning round of Bad Art History.
What the hell?
So before we get started, these are all submissions from fellow scum cells on Instagram and Twitter and Discord, so if you ever see weird art on the internet and you want somebody to explain it, please send it to me, please tag me. I will find out where it came from. So up first, Kitty Has Fleas asks, can you do mistakes into miracles? For anyone who's never heard of this, mistakes into miracles broadly refers to any fan art of a fictional pregnant couple where 9/11 is also somehow involved. Typically, the man is pregnant and the wreckage of the Twin Towers can be seen in the background. And as with most things, The Simpsons predicted it first. In July 2012, a user on Something Awful posted this crudely drawn fan art of an expecting Bart Simpson standing next to Marge and a dead Homer. As Homer's ghost rises into heaven, a single tear trickling down his cheek, Marge explains that now that Bart is pregnant with his own brother, it's up to him to carry the family name. It would appear that the rest of the Simpsons family is either dead or stricken with disease, as evidenced by Marge's 3-foot-long arm. And written on the left-hand side, 9/11. Never forget. And this artwork raises a few questions, right? Like, if Homer impregnated Bart, why is he going to heaven? While the answer and the artist behind this remain unknown, we do know this. Pregnant Bart likely gave birth in the summer of 2012 to the entire 9/11 pregnancy fan art genre, because shortly after this post was made, the infamous SpongeBob Sandy 9/11 pregnancy fan art began to circulate. This was also the one that popularized the phrase mistakes into miracles. And though the SpongeBob artwork was actually just a photoshopped version of a very sincere illustration made by an artist called SpongyGirl92, the version you are most likely familiar with is the joke one. Based on the over-the-top offensive nature of these images, with their allusions to mass death and familial abuse, they're almost certainly for shock value and little more. However, male pregnancy, known to some as mpreg, is actually a massive fetish genre in the fandom, fanfiction, and furry space. And speaking of furry spaces, number 2, Sandy Cockbore. Kiko537, among a few others, asks, "Cover Sandy Cockbore, please. I'm terminally ill and it's my last wish." Wish granted. So for those who don't know, this refers to a notoriously weird piece of fetish art featuring Sandy Cheeks vacuuming a car and a human being up off the street using her comically oversized male appendage. This artwork is best known for its use as a shock image, as even veterans of the furry community are forced to admit that this one is a little bit off the beaten path. Commissioned as a joke fetish piece, this illustration was uploaded to furry art site Ink Bunny on July 8th, 2017 by an artist called Smudgeproof. Though created as a joke, this was legit fetish art, specifically macrophilia and vor. Macrophilia encompasses fetish art where the focus is on a person or character becoming a giant, often crushing or otherwise imperiling the protagonist. Vor refers to the fetish of being consumed whole, being the consumer or otherwise watching the process happen. This is not to be confused with belly inflation, which is specifically about inflating a body part for pleasure. The fetish aspect of Sandy Cockbore revolves around the danger she poses to her environment via her giant member. Speaking of things no one wants to remember, number 3. The Incredible Gassy. Raymundo2112 asks, "Incredible Gassy, please." Now this might shock you, but I actually think this one is so nasty. Like, I don't know if I can make a real video on this because it disgusts me. But your wish is my command. So, the Incredible Gassy refers to animated fart fetish art of a green, morbidly obese version of Mr. Incredible from the children's movie, bouncing up and down on an object and emitting gases. This animation, created as a commission by adult artist Bobo Comics in 2021, was first released into the atmosphere via this unrelated meme on Instagram. From there, its absurd nature gained it cult popularity, and shortly thereafter, the Incredible Gassy developed somewhat of an ironic fandom when a user submitted fan art to a website called Soyboru. But as we all know, irony, if given enough time, becomes complete sincerity. Within a few short years, the Gassers community generated fan art, extensive character backstories, and even a music video.
He's taking up the catalog in the interest of Sergeant Bradford. It's the Gassy Warrior.
And in somewhat of a strange crossover, a central character to the Gassers lore is Sergeant Braphog, the gassiest, toughest soldier ever there was. And if something about him looks familiar to you, that's because he came from fat fetish art of a minor character from Johnny Test. And a note about Incredible Gassy that will come up again. You may notice the bouncy and stretchy quality of the animation. That's because it's made with motion tweens, a tool in most animation software that allows you to bridge the gap between frame A to frame Z. And unfortunately, this type of animation has become synonymous with a certain type of art. It has this quality that just makes you feel like filthy for even looking at it. But if you want to keep your space clean, look no further than today's sponsor, Pretty Litter. Pretty Litter is a health monitoring litter developed by veterinarians to screen for health issues from the comfort off. Thanks again to Pretty Litter for kindly sponsoring today's video. And back to our lightning round. And this brings us neatly and tragically along to number 4, the Bowser fart gif. So what is it? In all honesty, this entry is pretty similar to the Incredible Gassy, including the motion tween animation style. The primary difference is the character in question, Bowser, and the manner in which this gif spread. Unlike Gassy, Bowser fart gif, animated by artist Big Fat Ninja in 2019, proliferated through Discord. Users seeking mischievous fun would drop this image into a busy, otherwise unsuspecting chat and then watch the detonation from a safe distance. And by August 2021, the use of this gif was such a problem that user Ballstalker66 fired back by making his own gif, in which Big Brother instructs the viewer not to post the Bowser image. Its biggest impact, it seems, was cementing in people's minds that this animation style is never good news. But let's switch gears and talk about something positive. I'm alluding, of course, to number 5, BBL Luigi. A very short-lived meme in 2019, this illustration depicts a luscious, caked-up Luigi at the beach. Uploaded to DeviantArt on September 28, 2018 by inflation artist Lou the Pyro, this whimsical pinup art briefly made its way to Twitter and aroused potentially dozens of people. And while there's not much else to the story here, this artwork is somewhat of a spiritual sibling to a much more well-known Luigi meme. Standing stoically, his muscular form almost appearing to jump off the screen, Luigi eyes the viewer with something between seduction and contempt. And printed prominently on his back, the text reads, "That's how it is on this bitch of an earth." This piece very much feels like the dark, sensual counterpart to our beloved Big Butt Luigi, though something about it feels much more distinctly like a joke than actual fetish art. Thick Luigi is a classic example of butt inflation, which is distinct from weight gain fetishism in that it focuses on just one part of the body. You can see this trend reflected in all of Lou the Pyro's artwork. And on the topic of reflective surfaces, number 6, Val asks, life or death for Berry Boy? For those unaware, and I'm about to use a lot of online vocabulary here, so please brace yourself. Life or Death for Berry Boy is a parody Soy Jack fan art of an existing piece of fetish art. In the drawing, the titular Berry Boy can be seen pleading for his life while a crowd of onlookers are cheering for his death. While this has the appearance of absurd art for absurdity's sake, the original piece is a little darker. Originally created by DeviantArt user I Love Berry Boy in 2010, this piece is not only completely sincere, but casts Berry Boy explicitly as a toddler. In fact, a brief look at I Love Berry Boy's account reveals a series of off-putting, crudely rendered illustrations of this inflated child being harmed and tortured by various means. The berry aspect of his name comes from the ever-popular, at least on DeviantArt, blueberry inflation fetish, in which the subject is inflated to the point of becoming.
E o grande culpado disso existir é a fantástica fábrica de chocolate.
Becoming perfectly round, and in many cases leaks bodily fluids that resemble the juice of a crushed blueberry. Why someone would unearth this image and slap a soy jack on it is anyone's guess. But in the spirit of a lot of this artwork, be it a blueberry or something else, oftentimes the subject isn't even human. Sometimes it's 3 chipmunks. Number 7, My Casey Valentine asks, who's getting the best head? For anyone lucky enough not to accidentally see this on Facebook in 2016, this adult Alvin and the Chipmunks fan art involves the 3 siblings being serviced by their female counterparts. First unleashed onto society in 2008 by an artist called JK Comics, his contribution would quickly be overshadowed by an edit that spread much more widely. And quite surprisingly, it was generating a great deal of philosophical discussion. 3 competing schools of thought, Simonists, Alvinists, and Theodorians, went head-to-head on which chipmunk was receiving the highest quality copulation. Which is a sentence that no one on God's green earth has ever said. While there is seemingly no consensus, and the debate rages on to this day, this illustration did receive quite a great deal of negative reception when it was featured on Know Your Meme, with some commenters indicating their disgust that the chipmunks, who are themselves children, would be depicted this way. I imagine they would be much more upset if they found out that adult furry art site E621 contains 1,000 such illustrations. And on a more wholesome note, number 8, DeviantArt Muscle Mommies, as requested by Cow Milk. I only wanted to touch on this one for a second or two because in addition to being way more wholesome than anything we've discussed thus far, it's also kind of like a DeviantArt fetish classic for people who've been online long enough. Not much of a story here, just a guy named David C. Matthews who makes tons of beautifully rendered art of his favorite thing in the world, big strong ladies. Is it fetish art? Absolutely. Is his reverence for muscular women cute in a kind of eccentric way? I certainly think so. And that about does it for our first lightning round. Let me know if you have a favorite, let me know if you have a least favorite, and let me know in the comments if there's anything that you want covered that is conspicuously absent from this list. And I don't have a pun this week because, honestly, having to research all of this in one go is like... the joke is on me. This has been a lightning round in bad art history. This video was made possible by scum cells like you. Thank you.
Eu não vou assistir esse vídeo, eu só vou pegar, colocar nele para salvar no histórico.
I've been exposed to such a rich tapestry of cultures.
So cool, like we enjoyed it so much. The moment we stepped.
Do you want to embrace the machine?
Mais tarde. Tá, tem uns vídeos que eu perdi desse canal. Vários. Depois eu acompanho. Já viu? Isso aqui não. Isso aqui vai dar ruim com o direito autoral. Isso aqui parece interessante. Um vídeo novo aqui.
Throughout your mindless doom scrolling of internet memes, you've likely stumbled upon posts highlighting some unusual Autism Peak, Poo Poo Point, PP Creek, Volvo Island, and how could we forget Alcohol and Drug Abuse Lake? Today I'd like to take you on a cross-country tour as we explain the backstories behind oddly named locations and destinations that have become internet memes thanks to their bizarre nomenclature. Let's begin. Alcohol and Drug Abuse Lake. Some of you have probably seen map images featuring Alcohol and Drug Abuse Lake when browsing the web. It seems fake, but it's actually, or was, a real location in South Carolina, being certifiably given this name back in the 1980s or late 70s. But why was it named this? Was this some sort of degenerate lake retreat where unsavory folk would gather to get plastered and high all day, and this just happened so much that the lake was named after the activities that occurred there? Alcohol and Drug Abuse Lake is located in Richland County, South Carolina. It's relatively close to Columbia, the capital city of the state. Not a distillery or weed farm in sight. Without much context, the name of this lake is honestly baffling, and it has perplexed many internet users over the years. According to knowyourmeme.com, the first notable mention of the strangely named location online in the context of memes was on Twitter in 2015. This user had stumbled upon the oddly named location while browsing findlakes.com. The Find Lakes entry does give additional context to Alcohol and Drug Abuse Lake, stating, quote, Alcohol and Drug Abuse Lake is on a tributary of Crane Creek River in Richland County, South Carolina, and is used for recreation purposes. Construction was completed in 1973 at normal levels. It has a surface area of 93.2 acres and is owned by the Department of Mental Health. So Alcohol and Drug Abuse Lake was a man-made reservoir developed back in the 1970s. Nothing about why it's named the way it is in there, but something that is a clue is the fact that it's owned by the Department of Mental Health. This is kind of weird, you know, it seems like of all departments to own a lake, the Department of Mental Health would be one of the last. What's the story here? As the mystery surrounding Alcohol and Drug Abuse Lake enraptured the internet, one South Carolina publication would do their best to get to the bottom of the lake. Not literally, but you know what I mean. According to South Carolina news outlet The State, turns out that around the time of the lake's creation in the 70s, there existed a nearby alcohol and drug addiction treatment facility known as Morris Village. If you Google Morris Village, South Carolina today, you are met with an ominous help is available suicide and crisis hotline disclaimer. Pretty cursed, but Morris Village actually does still exist, presumably as a drug rehab. You can see here that it borders the lake, and there's even like a little dock that goes out into alcohol and drug abuse lake. Interestingly, the lake is also surrounded by a correctional facility and a state cemetery. Just like a motley crew of weird shit around it. Anyways, back to the old Morris Village addiction treatment facility. The
Lago do Vício em Drogas e Alcoolismo.
article referenced earlier posed the theory that this was the source of the lake's name. There was only one issue. When asked about the name, employees at the treatment center near it had no idea what they were talking about and referred to the lake by a completely different name. When a journalist from the state publication interviewed a representative for the South Carolina Department of Mental Health, a woman named Tracy LaPointe, she claimed that she had never heard the pond being referred to by that name, saying that locals called it names like Morris Village Pond or Village Lake. The representative also commented that it was quite a serene location. I have visited before and it is a beautiful and serene location. I imagine anyone receiving medical care there would find such a location to be calming and enjoyable, unquote. So it didn't appear as if there were people getting fucked up on the lake or anything like that. While the locals know the lake as Village Lake, the body of water was registered as Alcohol and Drug Abuse Lake in
Então, tipo, os caras. Oh, que nome vamos usar pra esse lago? Já sei. Lago do Alcoolismo e Vício em Drogas.
the early 80s, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. So somebody in the government at one point did in fact name it Alcohol and Drug Abuse Lake. Credit to the state journalist David Travis Bland for finding this info. In the time since David's article being released, it seems Alcohol and Drug Abuse Lake has been updated on both Google Maps and Wikipedia, and is now listed as Village Lake.
Mudaram o nome do Lago do Alcoolismo e Vício em Drogas, cara.
If you search the geographical location on Google Maps today, you'll see it being officially listed as Village Lake as well. The government literally tried to memory hold this shit. While technically unconfirmed, it's speculated that the online hysteria surrounding the name of this lake was partially responsible for the official name change on Google Maps. So this is kind of a weird one. It looks like perhaps officially in government records, the lake or pond really was called Alcohol and Drug Abuse Lake, perhaps named by some uninspired engineer who oversaw the reservoir project, who knew the lake was being built next to a rehab facility and was like, we're just gonna call it Alcohol and Drug Abuse Lake. But for the locals, workers, and patients in the area, it's simply just been known as Village Lake. And for those of you wondering, the lake is very much not open to the public and is even fenced in some areas. The land around it is owned by the government, and I think the shore on the other side is private property. All things considered, it's pretty much just a giant pond and is unremarkable. The only reason it's of interest is because of its old name. But yeah, it's called Alcohol and Drug Abuse Lake because it was next to a rehab center, and possibly some government employee just gave it that name because they were uninspired.
So if you guys are anything like me, you gotta have a good meal to eat when you're watching a YouTube video. And if you're watching this video, I guess that makes me your YouTube mealtime. First order of chef-made meals delivered fresh to your door. Just click the link and use code WavyWebSurf50 to try it out.
Autism Peak, California. One of the oddest locations on this list has to do with an image that's been floating around on the internet for a while now. Mainly circulating on websites such as Instagram and Reddit, you can clearly see what appears to be an awning or gazebo with the name Autism Peak printed on it, seemingly being the name of a legitimate hiking trail rest stop. The meme is usually accompanied with the phrase, "What if we kissed at Autism Peak?" The thing is, this trail doesn't seem to exist. If you search Autism Peak on Google, nothing legitimate comes up, only memes. And if you try to find it on Google Maps, it's nowhere to be found. A reverse image search also has similar results, and it's difficult to find the first instance of this picture being posted, though it appears to have first emerged online in 2023. Thankfully, for those intrigued by the Autism Peak mystery, so like me and 5 other people, Redditors have offered a spectrum of explanations in regard to solving it. After the meme was posted to r/autism, one user questioned if this was a real place. Another responded, claiming that it was likely a Photoshop edit of Autumn's Peak, located in Kenneth Hahn Park in Los Angeles. The Redditor linked to a website called hikingguy.com. If you follow the link and scroll close to the bottom, you'll be greeted with a wide variety of photos that clearly show the original pavilion with the proper text, Autumn's Peak. If you need further proof, you can search Autumn's Peak on Google Maps and a result immediately pops up, with it even being viewable via Street View. Looks like the infamous Autism Peak image is just a Photoshop of Autumn's Peak. While it's unfortunate that there's no literal Autism Peak, that doesn't mean that there aren't real-life parallels that do exist. There is a hiking spot located in Wyoming County, New York called Autism Nature Trail. While it may seem like a joke, this is actually a real location and trail. According to the website associated with the Autism Nature Trail, it's a first-of-its-kind experience in nature designed for visitors on the autism spectrum and with a range of abilities, appropriate and enjoyable for all abilities and ages. It's basically like a STEM hiking trail. So for any of you out there wondering if there are actually, autism-related hiking locations, the answer is yes. And while the fake one, Autism Peak, is certainly going to be more well-known, there is a real nature trail for autistic people if you want to check it out. Hornsea Prison and Hell on Earth. This strangely named place is an example of how real locations can be turned into fake ones and internet memes. In general, Google Maps is an invaluable tool, and you can rely on it to give you accurate results when looking up restaurants or destinations that you're trying to travel to. However, much like any online platform, it can be manipulated by miscreants. Most of the data about institutions and businesses is submitted by users themselves, and whenever a system like that exists, there's bound to be a loophole that's going to be taken advantage of. This is exactly what happened in February 2019, when a student at the Hornsea School and Language College decided to pull a joke on the faculty. According to the BBC, the student managed to get a successful name change appeal through to Google and got the map's pin changed to Hornsea Prison and Hell on Earth. The student obviously not too pleased with their time at the facility. Word got out to administrators as they quickly scrambled to get the name changed back, which they would, but not before it was noticed by internet users and mainstream news organizations alike. When asked for comment, a faculty member named Steve Osler said, quote, "We recommend that all schools take ownership of their Google Map icon to prevent any copycat behaviors," unquote. The change was most likely possible due to the fact that Hornsea College had not officially claimed to be the owner of their Google Maps location. In instances like this, anyone on the internet can make changes to the listing. This feature is useful because it allows for places that may not be a business to be properly labeled with the help of the community, although it can obviously be abused fairly easily. While the student was never publicly identified, they were most likely caught and punished within the school. However, this isn't an isolated incident, as many similar pranks like this have occurred. When The Independent reported on the Hornsea Hell on Earth incident, they also brought up a similar controversy that occurred in 2015, when the Manchester United soccer team had their home stadium renamed. Old Trafford Stadium, whose nickname was the Theatre of Dreams, was
Inferno de empresa de bosta. Caço, bosta, lixo. Inferno. É uma coisa, odiar essas empresas tá virando obrigação legal de todo cidadão. tomar no cu, claro. Vamos, sua empresa lixo. Trabalhe direito. Puta que me pariu. Empresa de merda. Cada uma, ó. Pra que se paga essas porcaria? Pra que paga? Pra não ser funcionar? Lixo. Paga uma merda dessa que não
whose name
funciona
is
direito,
Peter
porra.
Griffin. You might think this is some kind of joke, but no, it's not. That's his actual fucking name. In fact, Peter has a surprising amount of experience, coming from a highly educated background and having a successful career spanning quite a few years back. When discussing why incidents like this keep happening, he stated, quote, "Anyone who has dealt with Meta or Google to try to get something changed knows you cannot get a hold of a person to talk to. When it comes to cleaning up misinformation or potential harm to people, they are a lot less proactive." Geez, Lois, this is like that time that we changed the name of the school to Hornsea Prison in Hell on Earth. Now, these are just some of the most notorious examples of this happening. It's possible there are many more similar instances that go unreported or unnoticed because nobody cared to look into them. Out of all the internet pranks out there, it's safe to say this is one of the least harmful, with most just finding it entertaining and it being used to piss off like school administrators and stuff like that. If you know of any good ones, drop them in the comments. Volvo Island. America is one of the most geographically diverse countries in the world, with tourism being a major industry in many small towns. There's an endless amount of quirky sightings created to attract visitors to otherwise unremarkable areas. Cocker City, Kansas, for example, has the world's largest ball of twine, and Plains, Georgia has the famous Smiling Peanut statue. However, there's one roadside attraction that went relatively unknown until being spotlighted by the internet somewhat recently: Volvo Island. Located in Ottawa, Illinois, off of US Highway 6, this odd site can be easily viewed using Google Street Maps. If you zoom in, you'll see a gray 2001 Volvo S80 sedan sitting on a
Vai de drive, define valor. O motorista parceiro aceita. Drive, preço justo, jogo justo.
On a small island in a body of water that looks to be a creek or a small river. Google Maps has a location listed as a tourist attraction, but doesn't have much information about it beyond that. Ottawa, Illinois is about 80 miles outside of Chicago, at the crossroads of the Fox and Illinois rivers, and has a relatively small population of around 19,000 people. After footage of Volvo Island went viral online, it left many people questioning how exactly the car got onto the island in the first place. Well, the story behind this is pretty interesting, honestly. While there are numerous articles explaining its history, all of the information in them seems to stem from a 2012 report from The Times. As the story goes, an Ottawa local named Scott Mann decided to pull a publicity stunt to promote his auto repair business. Initially, the idea was to place the car on the island and have onlookers guess how it got there as a part of a contest. However, this idea was later deemed to be too dangerous, as Scott feared it might incentivize onlookers to explore the site and accidentally hurt themselves in the process. In the end, he decided just to tow the car onto the landmass in the middle of the lake or river for the hell of it, foregoing any contest at all, just doing it because he thought it would be funny. At that point in time, there was actually a small strip of land that connected the island to the shore, making the task relatively simple. To finish off the project, they then excavated the remaining land, creating the appearance of an island, essentially removing the peninsula portion. It's important to note that all of this information was revealed to the Times news outlet via Mr. Mann's office manager, Tiffany Warren. She elaborated on his thought process behind the stunt, stating, quote, "When Scott first came up with the idea, he said, if you have a
Sim. Já vou.
lake, an island, and a car, eventually they're going to get together. He just helped it along in this case." Despite interest in Volvo Island growing over time, Mr. Mann has strangely stayed radio silent about the incident. So unfortunately, there's no additional information on where the car itself came from or why it was specifically chosen for the stunt. I'm also curious to know who owns the particular area that it was placed in. And if this was one of those things where the government owns the body of water, maybe he's silent because he could get in trouble for, like, maybe it's littering or something. I'm not exactly sure. However, given the fact that his auto shop is nearby, I think it's more likely that Mr. Mann has control of the area and is keeping the Volvo there to attract attention and customers. News outlet Fox 2 revealed in an article published in 2024 that they reached out to Mr. Mann for comment but got no reply. If you search up Mr. Mann's auto repair business, however, it still seems to be going strong, with its Facebook page being active to this very day. Adding to the fame of Volvo Island, over the past few months, several popular Instagram pages have taken notice of the landmark, with them posting about it and garnering tens of thousands of likes in the process, boosting the reputation even further. A YouTube user simply going by the name Mark actually posted a video of himself visiting Volvo Island in February of 2024. In his video, you can see ducks inhabiting the area surrounding it. It looks like after all this time, the car has in a way become intertwined with the local ecosystem, and it's unlikely to be moved anytime soon. I'm sure a washed up rat or two has made a pretty sweet nest inside of that thing's exhaust. Poo Poo Point and PP Creek. When it comes to
Beleza, eu já vou. Infelizmente não tem como deixar porcarias tocando. Bom, então, na verdade tem como deixar porcaria tocando sim. Eu tenho meus motivos para não abrir pela página do próprio Cancelis. Eu não quero dar spoilers. Sobre algo que está sendo feito por
Woo!